This video was brought to you by Yamaha Proven Off-Road ATVs and side-by-side vehicles.
Hey Archery Talk, this is Lucas, and I figured I would share with you the story of my deer hunt last week, where I was able to connect on my very first ever public land deer with archery tackle. I've actually not been hunting a terribly long time. I would think my first hunt was maybe 5 years ago. I got invited by an ATV manufacturer, it was actually Yamaha, out to a place in Texas to do some hunting for whitetail, and I shot my first deer there, and the bug got me. And then I've had a chance to hunt on private land a couple more times, always in Texas actually. I just never had an opportunity to take a deer on public land in my neck of the woods anyway. Last year I came very close. It was actually my very first sit of the year, and a buck came and walked face forward directly to me. I just didn't like the shot at all. I was in a tree 15-20 feet up, and I just didn't like the angle. And then he ended up parking right underneath me. I could have dropped my bow on him. I could have jumped on him like a horse, but I didn't like the shot. And I kept thinking, oh, he's going to give me a quartering away shot when he walks away. And he started walking away, and it gave me that. It was a really extreme quartering away. And when I went to draw on him, he either heard me or winded me and bounced out, and that was the last I saw of him or anything last year. So this year, a friend and I made it a point to go and try to rectify that. And so my buddy Victor, who has been doing all the scouting, so really, the credit is largely his. He'd been scouting some public land not too far from where we live, and we were looking for 4.5 days of hunting. And on the third day is the first time we saw anything, and I was sitting up on a stand, again probably about 20 feet up, and all of a sudden I heard this crashing through the woods, and then a buck came out angry at the world, and not very far away from me, but he was kind of in front of a couple of trees. Like if he went 6 feet to the left, I had 100 yards of wide open shooting lane, but he stayed in this spot in front of these trees. And then he slowly started turning around and walking back the way he came in, and he stopped in a little gap between two of the trees, and where I was standing I still didn't have a shot because there were some branches in the way. So I had to try to sit down because there was a window if I sat. And I was terrified the whole time I was going to make a noise because there was a bunch of snow around, and I didn't want my boots to squeak on the snow. Who knows what was going to happen? And so I sat down, and he didn't hear me. I drew my bow back. The problem now is that I'm facing him straight on, like my knees are pointing towards him, and I can't get my knees off to the right because there's a tree in the way. I'm getting blocked, and so I have to kind of do this weird body twist thing, and I go down, and he's 23 yards away, and I take the shot. The shot felt good. I was nervous, of course, but I thought I did a fine job on the shot. I didn't feel like my pin was floating like crazy. And I let the shot go, and I hit him far back, like in the leg far back, which is absurd because I shoot my bow 12 to 15,000 times a year. I did the math. That's about how many arrows I shoot a year. I shoot a fair bit. In 20, 25 yards, I'm pretty automatic, at least for shooting a deer. I'm not a professional level archer by any stretch. So I was gutted that I missed the shot by that much, and I didn't understand it. And I'm thinking what may have caused the issue, I think, is I must have just been out of alignment when I made the shot. Maybe I didn't center my scope and my peep, or maybe whatever it was, something just wasn't right, and the shot was off. And I guess the main lesson I'm learning out of this is I gotta practice shots like that. I gotta practice shots with my body at weird angles. Maybe in those situations where my knees are pointed at the target, and I've got to move my body in a weird twisty way and see if I can make the shot. And if I can't do that consistently in practice, then I just can't allow myself to make that shot on an animal, because I was gutted when I saw that shot. I was beside myself. So I waited up in my tree for 2.5 hours before I came down, and my buddy Victor met me down there, and we started tracking, and there was no blood where I shot him, which was disappointing. There was lots of snow, so the blood would be readily visible. And so we went and followed the tracks in the woods, because there was he made a pretty clear path where he was going. And then we got into the woods, and still no blood. And now, of course, there's tracks all over the place. So we're getting mixed up in where to look. And all of a sudden, Victor spotted some blood, and then we spotted more, and we had to end up having a very good blood trail. And we tracked him for a little while, and then we jumped him after he was clearly laying down after he got shot. He was hurt pretty bad. And then we decided to keep pushing him because it was getting warmer and the snow was starting to melt. And we looked like he was hurting because he was bedding down about every 30 yards or so, I would say 30 to 40 yards maybe, because he was hurt. And so we thought we'll push him, make sure we don't lose the blood trail, and kind of keep that heart pumping of his, and hopefully he'll bleed out. And then, as luck would have it, we found him. He eventually expired at the top of a hill. It looks like it happened, and then he fell down the hill, and that's where we ended up finding him and finally putting my hands on him. So I was super grateful that I hit him, that I recovered him rather, but I was still pretty gutted about the shot. But I'm convinced the only reason I recovered the deer was because I was shooting a pretty heavy arrow. I was shooting the Gold Tip airstrikes with the stainless steel insert. So it was running about 475 grains. Not a super heavy arrow, but much heavier than some other arrows that people are hunting with. And I just think if I was shooting like a 400 grain arrow or a 380 grain arrow, whatever it was, I just don't know if it would have gone through the medius part of his leg and into his organs to actually help him die a little faster anyway. But regardless, it was a terrible shot, and I don't know how I'm gonna kind of come to terms with it, because God, I practiced so much for so many years now, so I never make that dumb shot, and there I went and made it. I had the best equipment I could possibly have. I was shooting the new Mathews VXR 28. I was super comfortable with that bow, out to very long distances, let alone 23 yards. I was shooting the Gold Tip airstrikes. I was playing with a black gold Ascent whitetail sight. I had like the Hemsky Raptor P. I had all the good stuff you want to have, and I still managed to screw it up. And that's what's kind of sticking with me. Now I'm super happy I recovered the deer, and you couldn't wipe the smile off my face for a long time, but I was pretty dejected at the same time that I made that dumb shot. And I practice so much, one, because I like archery, and two, because I want to be an ethical hunter, and and clearly in that situation I didn't make an ethical shot, and that's going to stick with me for a while. But now the goal is to practice those weird angles, and if while I'm practicing them I don't feel like I'm comfortable shooting them, I'm not making good consistent groups, and I can't take that shot on a deer. I've just got to put myself in more uncomfortable positions while I'm practicing. So that's it, Archery Talk for now. Ultimately, I did get my first public land deer. I'm very happy about that. I'm going to have that trophy forever to remind me not to make that dumb shot again, and then hopefully we'll have more success stories with less dumb shots in years to come. Thanks so much for watching Archery Talk. If you can, please like, share, and subscribe. It really would help the channel an awful lot.